Ethan Brooks woke up early that morning with a feeling that today would change his life. The sun had just risen, spreading soft light across his small apartment. He buttoned his shirt carefully and checked himself in the mirror. His suit was not new, but it was clean and neatly pressed. He had spent the last of his savings to prepare for this job interview at Whitestone Technologies. It was one of the top companies in the city, and this job could finally help him support his mother, who lived in a small town nearby. He practiced his answers while brushing his hair, repeating words of confidence, even though his stomach felt tight with worry. Then he placed his resume in a folder, checked his watch, and left for the bus stop. The streets were busy, even so early in the morning. The air smelled of roasted coffee from the cafe's opening for the day. He smiled slightly and whispered to himself that everything would be fine. While walking along the main road, Ethan noticed a car stopped at the side. A young woman stood there, looking lost and unsure. The front tire of her car had gone flat. She looked at her phone and then at the wheel, clearly not knowing what to do. Ethan slowed down. He checked his watch again. If he stopped to help, he might be late for his interview. His heart beat fast as he stood there for a moment, thinking. Ethan had always believed that doing the right thing mattered more than chasing luck. Even if it meant losing something big, doing good felt right to him. So after a deep breath, he walked over and asked if she needed help. The girl turned toward him quickly. She had long brown hair tied in a loose braid and tired eyes that brightened with hope when he spoke. She said with relief that she could not figure out how to change the tire and that she had been standing there for 15 minutes already. He rolled up his sleeves and got to work. Grease soon covered his hands and spread to his clean cuffs. The girl tried to help but kept apologizing for not knowing what to do. He laughed softly and told her it was fine. The morning sun grew warmer as cars rushed by them. It took him nearly 20 minutes to replace the tire. By the time he was done, his shirt had a few black smudges and his collar no longer looked perfect. The girl smiled gratefully and offered to pay him for his help. Ethan shook his head right away. He told her he was glad to help and that kindness should not come with a price. She looked surprised at his words and thanked him many times. Then she climbed into her car and waved gently as she drove away. Ethan stood there for a moment, wiping his hands on a handkerchief, feeling both content and anxious. He looked at his watch again, and his heart dropped. He had only 15 minutes left before the interview was supposed to start, and the company building was still several streets away. He ran as fast as he could, wishing the roads would open up before him. Sweat formed on his forehead, and his chest ached as he hurried through crossing lights and narrow lanes. The city's tall buildings looked endless as he rushed past them. When he finally reached Whitestone Technologies, he stopped at the small fountain outside to catch his breath. He straightened his jacket and wiped his face, hoping he still looked presentable. The receptionist looked up when he entered, her friendly smile fading slightly when he gave his name. She checked the list and said softly that the interviews had finished 10 minutes ago. Ethan felt his chest grow heavy. He asked if there was any chance he could meet someone, but she said the panel had already left. The next round of interviews would not be for another 3 months. For a long moment he stood there, staring at the polished floor that reflected the bright lights above. People walked past him, dressed in smart clothes, holding files and talking about projects. He nodded politely and walked back outside. The sky had turned brighter now, and the city noise seemed louder. He sat on a nearby bench, watching people hurry to their offices. A strange calm settled over him. Even though he had missed his interview, he did not feel angry. He thought of the girl's smile when she had driven away. Maybe fate had other plans, he told himself quietly. He remembered something his mother used to say, that sometimes life tests the heart before it opens the door to what is meant for you. Ethan took out his resume and looked at it again. It represented years of effort and hope, but he folded it carefully and placed it back in his bag. The day was not ruined. It was just different from what he had expected. He stood, looked at the wide streets shining in sunlight, and decided to walk home. The road ahead felt uncertain, but his heart carried a quiet confidence that had nothing to do with jobs or titles. Somewhere deep down, he felt that the small act of kindness he had shown would not go unanswered. Ethan woke up the next day with a heavy feeling that he could not shake off. The morning sunlight streamed through the thin curtains, but it brought no warmth to his heart. He made coffee and sat at the small table in his kitchen, staring at the steam curling from the cup. His resume lay beside it, a reminder of what could have been. He tried to tell himself that things would work out somehow, yet his chest still felt tight with disappointment. His phone buzzed. It was his friend Peter asking how the interview had gone. Ethan hesitated before replying. He typed that he had missed it and sent the message quickly, not wanting to talk about it more. Peter sent back words of comfort and told him that being kind was never a waste. Ethan smiled sadly at the screen, knowing his friend meant well. He spent the rest of the day walking around the city. The tall buildings looked colder than usual, and the people moved quickly around him, speaking into phones, sharing laughter that seemed far away from his world. He looked at the glass windows of the white stone building as he passed by, wondering if one small choice could really change a person's fate. Still, when he remembered the girl's nervous face on that roadside, he could not feel regret. Ethan tried to keep himself busy during the next few days. He visited smaller offices, dropping off his resume wherever he could. Some places said they were not hiring. Others asked him to come back later. He bought cheap sandwiches for lunch and sat on a park bench watching children play. He thought of his mother and decided not to tell her yet about the missed interview. She had always believed he was destined to do something meaningful, and he did not want her to worry. On the 5th day, he found part-time work at a small tech repair shop run by a kind old man named Mr. Harvey. The shop smelled of solder and old circuit boards. Shelves were stacked with computers, phones, and tangled wires. It was far from the sleek office he had dreamed of, but it gave him a reason to get up each morning. Mr. Harvey taught him how to repair small gadgets and praised his patience with customers. Ethan tried to find joy in the small victories like fixing a broken phone or helping an elderly woman retrieve her photos from a damaged laptop. The pay was modest, barely enough to cover his rent, yet each evening he went home with the quiet satisfaction of honest work. Still, at times when he walked past Whitestone Technologies on his way to the bus stop, he could not help but imagine what life might have been like if he had made it to that interview. He pictured himself in a tidy office, maybe wearing an ID badge, maybe sharing ideas in meetings. But the image always faded quickly when he remembered the stranger on the road smiling with gratitude as she drove away. He wondered if she had reached her destination safely. One afternoon when business was slow, Ethan sat near the shop window, watching people hurry by under light rain. Raindrops streaked down the glass like silver lines. He thought about how strange life could be, how it never followed the plans you made. Mr. Harvey noticed his thoughtful silence and asked if something was wrong. Ethan smiled and said, "No, he was only thinking." The old man nodded and said, "Every turn of the road holds a reason, even the ones we do not see yet." That evening, Ethan stopped by a small cafe near the corner of the street. The air smelled of coffee beans and cinnamon. He ordered a cup and took a seat by the window. Outside, the city lights flickered on, one by one, like stars appearing in the sky. He looked at his reflection in the glass and tried to imagine his future again. He was not sure what to expect, but he promised himself he would keep working and never lose faith. As he stirred his coffee, someone outside the cafe slowed down. A woman in a cream coat stood for a moment, looking in through the glass. Her hair was tied back, and she held a small purse. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw him sitting there, lost in thought. She took a small step forward as if wanting to enter, then seemed to hesitate. The rain had stopped for a moment, but she turned quickly and walked away. Ethan did not notice her. He was watching the dripping sound of rain return against the window, thinking how peaceful it was to sit quietly after a long day. When he finally left the cafe, he walked home with the gentle rhythm of rain following him down the empty sidewalks. That night, as he lay on his bed listening to the soft hum of traffic outside, his thoughts drifted again to the girl he had helped. Somewhere in the wide city, she must have been living her own story. He did not know her name, nor did he expect to see her again. Yet something inside him felt that their paths might not have crossed for the last time. He turned off the light and closed his eyes, carrying that small, strange warmth in his heart. A week passed quietly for Ethan. Each day began the same way, with the sound of Mr. Harvey unlocking the door to the repair shop and the light buzz of the sign flickering on. Ethan had settled into a rhythm. Customers came in with broken devices. He smiled, fixed what he could, and felt small bits of pride with every thank you. Yet deep inside, he still carried the thought that he was meant for something more. The dream of working at a big company had not left him, only grown quieter. One rainy evening, as the clock neared closing time, the bell above the shop door rang. Ethan looked up from a laptop he was fixing and saw a young woman standing there. She held an umbrella dripping with rainwater and wore a neat gray coat. Her expression was calm, but there was something familiar about her that made Ethan pause. She stepped forward slowly, studying his face. Then a smile spread across hers. It was the same face from that morning on the roadside. The same eyes that had looked lost and grateful when he had helped with the flat tire. Ethan blinked in surprise and almost dropped the screwdriver in his hand. She set her umbrella aside and said softly that she had been looking for him for several days. She introduced herself as Lily Carter. Her voice held both warmth and confidence. She thanked him again for the help he had given that day, saying she had never forgotten it. Ethan smiled politely and told her it had been nothing. He was simply glad she had reached safely. Then she told him something that made him freeze in place. She said she worked for Whitestone Technologies. More than that, she was the daughter of the founder and was currently managing part of the company's projects in her father's absence. She explained that after the incident on the road, she had seen his name on the list of interview candidates. When she realized that he had missed his interview because of her, she had felt deeply guilty. Ethan stood speechless, felt a strange mixture of surprise and disbelief. The thought that the girl he had helped was the boss's daughter was hard to take in. He looked at his smudged sleeves and the messy workbench, feeling slightly embarrassed. Before he could say anything, she continued. Lily told him she had spoken to the management team about giving him another chance. At first they had hesitated, but she believed in fairness. She told them how his kindness and calmness had impressed her more than any interview answer could. Finally, she had arranged for him to have a second interview if he was still interested. Ethan's mouth went dry. For a moment, words refused to come. Then he managed to ask if she was serious. Her smile widened and she nodded. She handed him a card with her company address written neatly under the logo of Whitestone Technologies. She told him to come on Monday morning. He was to report to her office directly. Ethan felt lightheaded, but also deeply grateful. He looked around the small shop where he had spent the past week. Mr. Harvey, who had been watching quietly from the counter, gave him a knowing smile. He said he could manage the store alone if Ethan needed to leave. 8. That night, Ethan could hardly sleep. He lay awake in the dim room, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing. The chance he had thought lost forever had returned in the most unexpected way. He remembered the way Lily had looked at him with sincere kindness, not as someone above him, but as someone who respected what he had done. When Monday arrived, he woke up early and took extra care getting ready. He checked his reflection in the mirror twice. His suit looked better than before, pressed and proper. He walked out of his apartment with quick steps and a steady heart. The streets buzzed with life, but this time he moved through them with a quiet sense of purpose. At the entrance of Whitestone Technologies, the security guard greeted him politely and directed him upstairs. As he stepped into the elevator, his reflection in the shiny metal walls looked more confident than he remembered. He held the card Lily had given him tightly in his hand. When the doors opened, he walked down the long hallway lined with glass offices. People moved briskly through the space, carrying papers and talking in low voices. It smelled faintly of coffee and new beginnings. He reached Lily's office, hesitated for a second, then knocked. Her clear voice called him in. She stood by the window overlooking the city, a faint smile on her lips. The morning light framed her like something out of a picture. She told him she was glad he had come and that she hoped they could start fresh. As Ethan sat down across from her, something inside him settled. It felt like stepping into the next chapter of his life, one that had waited patiently for him to arrive. He did not know where this new path would lead. All he knew was that every moment of doubt and struggle had led him to this room, to this second chance, and to the girl whose fate had somehow become tied to his own. Ethan started his new role at Whitestone Technologies with excitement and nervousness mixed together. First few days felt like stepping into a dream. Office was large and bright, full of people typing on computers and talking about new ideas. He tried to learn everything quickly and often stayed late just to understand how things worked. Everyone noticed how focused and polite he was. He never spoke too much, but always listened carefully. Lily often visited the work area to check on projects. Each time she passed by his desk, she gave him an encouraging smile. The other employees looked at her with both respect and admiration. Ethan tried to treat her the same as everyone else. Yet every time she was near, he found his heart beating faster without reason. She carried herself with quiet confidence and patience that made her stand out. Weeks turned into months, and Ethan's hard work began to show. One morning during a team meeting, he shared an idea that could help improve one of the company's new software systems. To his surprise, Lily asked him to explain more. The entire room went still as he described how his method could save both time and money. When he finished, Lily's expression showed clear interest. She said it was simple, smart, and worth trying. That afternoon, she asked him to join her small development team to test the idea. Working directly with Lily was both exciting and challenging. She expected clear thinking and discipline. She also believed strongly that every idea, no matter how small, deserved respect. Ethan admired her more each day. She often stayed in the office after others had gone home, reviewing designs and plans while sipping tea. Sometimes Ethan stayed too, offering help. At first, they spoke mainly about work, but slowly their conversations grew warmer. Often, while working side by side at the whiteboard, they would start talking about their lives. She told him a few stories from her childhood and how she had studied overseas but missed her home city. He shared stories about his mother, his first computer, and how he wished to build something that truly helped people. Their laughter began to fill the quiet evenings in the office. One evening, after a long day of planning, Lily suggested they take a walk outside the building. The night air was cool and carried the scent of rain. They walked slowly beside the fountain near the front gate. City lights sparkled in the water. She thanked him for his loyal effort and told him his ideas reminded her why she loved working at Whitestone. He smiled and replied that he was only doing his best. But she shook her head lightly and said not everyone cared as deeply as he did. Her voice was calm and kind, left him both humbled and thoughtful. Over the next few weeks, the project they worked on began to align perfectly. The management team praised their progress. Rumors spread around the office that Ethan had become Lily's favorite team member. Some people whispered that he might be promoted soon. Ethan tried not to listen. He only cared about finishing the project and keeping his promise to himself to always do his best. One late afternoon, a mild power fault caused the computer network to fail. Everyone panicked because an important demonstration was scheduled for the next morning. Ethan quickly offered a plan. He stayed all night checking files and fixing errors while Lily brought him coffee to keep him awake. They fought against exhaustion together, wordlessly trusting each other. When the dawn finally came, the system was back online. Lily walked over, her eyes shining with pride. She said softly that she had never worked with someone so dependable. He blushed and told her that her belief in him had made it possible. From that morning on, something between them quietly changed. They still treated each other with professionalism, but there were moments when their eyes met and neither spoke for a long second. It was not spoken affection, but rather a deep respect that carried warmth stronger than words. As spring arrived, their project reached its final stage. The two of them spent hours preparing for the presentation that would decide its success. Lily's father, the company founder, was expected to attend. Ethan felt nervous but ready. He knew how much this meant to her. She told him she wanted her father to see the creativity and hard work of her team, especially his. On the day of the presentation, everything went smoothly. When the meeting ended, Lily turned to Ethan with a joyful smile. She thanked him again and said this was only the beginning. He smiled back, feeling both grateful and amazed by how his life had changed. That night, as he walked home under the quiet city lights, Ethan thought about how quickly things could turn around. A single choice on a random morning had led to all of this. Every step, every decision, every act of kindness had pulled him closer to something he no longer saw as luck, but as the gentle work of fate. The evening of the company's annual gala arrived with lights shining across the tall glass building of Whitestone Technologies. The main hall was decorated with golden ribbons, white flowers, and elegant tables. Soft music floated in the air as guests gathered, laughing and greeting one another. Ethan stood near the entrance in a dark suit, feeling both proud and nervous. He had never been to such a grand event before. Every chandelier sparkled above him like a sky full of stars. The project he and Lily had worked on for months had not only succeeded, but caught the attention of senior managers and investors. It had become a turning point for the company. Ethan still found it hard to believe that the same man who had run through the streets, worried about missing an interview, was now one of the most talked-about employees of the year. Lily entered the hall a few minutes later, wearing a simple silver dress that caught the light with every movement. She smiled when she saw Ethan and came toward him. Her father, Mr. Carter, the founder of Whitestone Technologies, followed behind her, greeting employees cheerfully as he walked. When Mr. Carter reached the front stage, the crowd became quiet, gave a short speech about the company's growth and gratitude for everyone's hard work. Then he surprised everyone by calling Ethan's name. Ethan felt his heart jump. As he walked to the front, people clapped warmly. Mr. Carter spoke kindly about his dedication and clever thinking that had helped the company's new system succeed. He handed Ethan a small award and shook his hand firmly. For a moment, Ethan looked out at the sea of faces and caught Lily's eyes. She was smiling at him with quiet pride that said more than words ever could. After the ceremony ended, the hall filled with cheerful voices once again. Ethan stepped aside to breathe. He noticed Lily speaking with investors nearby, but soon she walked over to him. She congratulated him softly and said he had truly earned it. Ethan thanked her, but told her that none of it would have been possible without her support. She laughed lightly and said teamwork worked both ways. There was a pause, then a whisper of understanding passed between them. They both knew what the other wanted to say, but neither hurried to speak it aloud. Later, when the event ended, Lily invited him to the terrace above the hall, where the city lights stretched far into the night. The cool breeze carried faint music from below. They stood side by side, watching the lights flicker like distant fires. Ethan finally turned toward her and said that this job had given him so much more than he had expected. Told her he had learned that sometimes losing something you think is important only leads you to something even greater. Lily looked down for a moment and then met his eyes. She told him she had known from the beginning that she owed him a thank you bigger than words. She explained how that morning on the roadside had changed her view of people. He had helped without knowing who she was or what she could offer in return. That single act of kindness had shown her more about his character than any interview question ever could. Ethan listened quietly, feeling warmth spread in his chest. She said she had watched him grow and prove himself, not because she gave him a chance, but because he had earned it with his honesty. Then she added that she was glad fate had brought their paths together. The night sky above them was clear. For a long moment they both stood silently, feeling the calm rush of the city wind around them. Lily smiled at him, then said softly that sometimes destiny hides in the smallest choices. If he had walked past her that morning, none of this would have happened. Ethan nodded, saying that maybe the universe had a way of rewarding good hearts in its own time. Her eyes glowed with something gentle and deep. She told him she believed every connection between two people was like a string, invisible perhaps, but strong enough to pull them toward the moments they were meant to share. He could not find the right words, so he simply said he was grateful for that unseen string. When they finally left the terrace, the city's lights still burned bright beneath them. As they walked back inside, Ethan realized that his journey had not been about luck or success, but about the quiet strength to do what was right even when it cost him something. That choice had led him to this place, this purpose, and to her. As the night came to an end and people began to leave, Ethan and Lily stood together, both smiling. The music played softly one last time. The story that began with a missed opportunity had turned into something much greater. In the end, it was not about losing or winning, but about finding meaning, kindness, and love in a world that often rushed past them. And somewhere within the noise of the city, the quiet bond between them grew stronger, holding their hearts close as if the world itself had tied them together.